Hello everyone! Nice to see you guys again. I'm Belle from the Academy team. As you know, recently we rolled out a major update for our POS version 2.63, Merchant Portal, and Branded Web. Hence, today, I will walk you through these exciting new features and enhancements included in this release. For POS version 2.63, we have introduced several significant enhancements. We added the Suspend Invoice Module and Delete Invoice Remaining Amount for the Taiwan e-Invoice function. Moreover, if your restaurant is using the CRM module, you can now create drop-down options for custom member fields. Besides, we have an enhancement for the split check feature, allowing you to disable it if your restaurant doesn't need it. And one of the highlights of this update is that you can now log into your POS account directly by simply entering your PIN code. On the portal side, there are also quite a few updates as well. We have added invoice and credit note as an export option for Xero integration. Additionally, you can now exclude specific shops when sending organization or group operation reports. And to ease the menu creation process, we have also created the shared modifier. Furthermore, you can now check the GTO Export History directly in the Merchant Portal. While for Branded Web, the update is quite straightforward. You can now override the Pay Later setting for the Scan to Order feature in your full-service restaurant. Alright, so now, without further ado, let's dive into the updates for the POS version 2.63. If you are specifically interested in the Merchant Portal or Branded Web updates, you can refer to the timestamp below to skip ahead to that section. The first update we have for POS is particularly relevant for our Taiwan merchants, focusing on the e-Invoice functionality. So now, you can suspend the invoice module if you anticipate a particular POS terminal will not issue any invoices. For example, if your restaurant has multiple POS, one at the payment counter and others for ordering purposes, you can choose to suspend the invoice module for those POS terminals not specifically used for payment. This means that only the POS system at the payment counter will be able to issue invoices, while the other terminals will be restricted from doing so. We have also added the ability to delete the remaining invoice amount in the POS. This is useful if you plan to switch to another platform for issuing e-invoices but still have remaining invoices in the POS. Now, you can delete the remaining amount before making the switch. To do so, ensure that you have turned on the necessary permission under User and Permissions, e-Invoice Permission. Once enabled, you will see a Delete Remaining Amount button under Remaining Invoice Number. Click on it, and then click on Confirm to delete the obtained invoice number. Next, let's take a look at the enhancement we made for the CRM custom member fields. We have now introduced a new custom member field type, drop-down options, in this POS version update. And you might be wondering, what is this feature about? So now, let me show you how to set it up through the Merchant Portal 2.0. So, previously, we offered the option to add custom member fields under CRM, Loyalty, and custom member fields if you wanted to record any information beyond the default mandatory fields for your members. And now, we have added a type called drop-down options. To add this, simply click on Add Custom Member Fields and fill in the necessary information as usual. Then, choose the type as drop-down options and add the option values accordingly. And once you save this information, you will see the custom field appear on the member creation page, where you can now select the region based on each customer location. Okay, next, let's talk about the enhancement that allows you to disable the split bill function. So, previously, you will see the split bill button on the payment page, and we understand that some restaurants might not use this feature at all, and accidentally clicking on it could require extra steps to return to the payment page. Hence, we have added a setting that allows you to disable the Split Bill button if you don't need it. You can do this using either the Eats365 POS or the Merchant Portal. Here, I will demonstrate using the POS. First, go to System Preference under Advanced Settings. You will find a new section called Split Check. If you want to disable the Split Bill function, simply turn off Enable Split Check and that's it. And now, you will no longer see the Split Bill button on your payment page. The next update I have for you is the ability to log into your POS account using a specific PIN code. This enhancement is particularly useful for those restaurants with a large number of staff. And why do I say so? Try to imagine if you have around 50 staff in your restaurant, and every time when they want to log into the POS, they have to scroll through all the pages to find their account, click on it, and enter a password. This process can be quite time-consuming, right? Therefore, we have introduced the login by PIN code feature. Now, your staff can skip the account search process and log in directly by entering their specific PIN code. To set this feature, you are required to use the Merchant Portal. First, go to Organization Settings and select Organization Settings. Under Sign In and Clock In or Out with PIN, turn on Enable Sign In and Clock In or Out with PIN. Then, select the preferred PIN length, 4, 6, or 8 digits. Then, choose the shop to which this applies and click on Save to confirm your changes. Once you have enabled the PIN code feature, you can now go to the staff list, select POS Access, and enter the relevant PIN code for each of your staff members. If you enter a PIN code that is already in use by another staff member, you will see an error message when you try to save it. Then, re-enter a unique PIN code and click on Save will do. And now, on the POS, instead of using the user login, you can switch to PIN login. Without needing to select the staff account, simply enter your unique PIN code and you can successfully log into your account. Alright, now, we will talk about the enhancement we included in Portal Update. We will first look at one enhancement we made for Xero, the accounting software integration. So, previously, we could only export invoice to Xero from our Merchant Portal. And for the invoice, since it only exports a summary of all paid transactions and remove the voided or refunded amount, this might be confusing if you also want to see the amounts issued back to the customer. Hence, to address this, we have added an option to separate invoices and credits. To do this, you need the Merchant Portal. First, under App Library, find Xero and select Settings. Go to the Export tab and under the Export type, select the drop-down menu. And you now have the flexibility to export either invoice or both invoice and credit note. If you select the export type as invoice and credit note, then on the Xero platform, you will see an invoice reflecting the total sales amount minus the voided and refunded transaction like what we have previously. And in addition, you will also receive a separate credit note with a breakdown of the voided and refunded transaction. We have also made an enhancement to the reporting feature, allowing you to select shops to exclude from the organization or group operation reports. To use this feature, follow these steps in Merchant Portal. First, go to the group or organization view in your Merchant Portal, navigate to Report Settings, and click on Export Settings. You will now see an option for you to exclude the shop, where you can choose the shop you want to exclude from the report. Next, let's take a look at one of the highlight enhancements for this Portal update, the Shared Modifier. So for this feature, it is actually quite similar to our previous preset modifier, but with significant improvements. So previously, with the preset modifier, if you change any information, the items that had already applied the modifier would not reflect the latest changes, right? Therefore, to address this, we created the shared modifier to simplify your menu creation process. Curious about how this function works? Let me walk you through it now. First, you will need to make sure that you only do this in the Merchant Portal 2.0. So, on your portal, go to Menu Setup, then click on Modifiers and select Modifier Preset. On this page, remember to click Shared Modifier instead of the Modifier template. Click on Add Single Choice Modifier or Multiple Select Modifier and create the modifier like what you usually did for your item. Once done, you can now mass apply the modifier to the items. Click on Apply Items and select the items that you intend to use this modifier for. Then, click on Save and that's it. If you prefer to assign the share modifier to items individually, you can also do so by visiting the item creation page. Select Modifier and applying the shared modifier there. And one thing that is very important here, take note that once the share modifier has been assigned, you cannot make any changes on the item page. Instead, go back to the shared modifier page to make amendments, and the edits will automatically reflect in all items using that modifier. In the event that in the future, you would like to replace the item modifiers, you can also do so under Bulk Replace Item Modifiers. What you will need to do here is very simple. Select the relevant modifiers and the items you want to replace the modifier for. Click Save, and since this action will remove all modifier settings from the selected items and replace them with your newly selected options, you are required to double-check and confirm if you want to make the changes. As an added layer of protection, you will need to manually type Confirm to proceed with the changes. Alright, the last enhancement for the portal deployment is regarding the GTO integration in Malaysia and Singapore. And for this enhancement, it is very straightforward. So, we basically added an export history feature on the merchant portal that allows you to check whether the GTO report was generated manually by you or automatically by the system if you are using the GTO integration. Okay, last but not least, let's have a look on the enhancement for branded web. We only have one enhancement this round, which allows you to override the Pay Later setting for your Scan to Order function in your full service restaurant. So, what happened is, before this, if you set your restaurant workflow to Pay Later, this applies universally, whether orders are placed on the POS or through the BYOD. And now, you can separate the workflow. This means orders that place through the POS can still use the Pay Later option, while for the orders placed through BYOD can set to be Pay First. To configure this, you need your merchant portal. First, go to Restaurant Settings, then Dine In and select Workflow. You will notice that if the required payment when placing orders setting is not turned on, all the orders placed on the POS and BYOD will be directly sent to the kitchen without payment required. So now, go to Scan to Order, scroll down to Order Payment, and you will see that this required payment for Scan to Order setting has been added. What we will need to do is just turn on the setting, and once you save it, any customer using Scan to Order will be required to pay first before the order can be sent to the kitchen. Alright, so that will be all for the highlights we have in this update. And as a reminder, the updates are now ready on your POS, Merchant Portal, and Branded Web. So, feel free to explore if you think that it is relevant to your restaurant operations. And of course, if you encounter any challenges when setting up the feature, you can always reach out to us for further assistance. Okay, with that, I would say it's a wrap for today's session. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon in the next update. Goodbye and have a great day ahead.